chrisalt programming, looking for some kind of program to find this. I want to talk about that. I played with that a little bit. Let me read this actually very quickly. I liked your comment. I love your comment, actually. I've thought about this. Oh my gosh, if I try to figure out what to do here. I keep running into snags. I wonder if there's a way to do a reverse search instead of typing in each word to that triggers the word or number to find out how many times it is listed in the text as you do. Like asking the search engine, what will all the words in this book like Jonah that have shown up as 3 times or 7 times, etc., and the Eden numbers. And I think the same, searching out first sin numbers. Sorry if this may be confusing. I think it may be easier to just read the text as you do. Another search engine may take months to create for an IT programmer to write the code. Yeah, you're right. And I've used AI a little bit thinking, let me see if I can engage this somehow. And I got to know AI kind of well. I can pretty well recognize it. But AI is, how does one say it? AI is just a program. When I talk and have it do things, it really is limited in certain ways. For example, if I tell it ask it how many times is the name Cain said in the book of Genesis, it comes back and tells me it said 4 times. I already know that that's wrong. It's said like 20 times. So, and I asked it, how about Abraham? And it said something like about 75 times. It's well over 120 times. So it's got something wrong, but here's what it's got wrong. It went and looked for Cain, and it didn't look for Cain, period. Cain, comma. There's other things that happen. You might ask it to look for, let's go here and bounce a couple things around. Genesis, King James Version. I'm going to ask for Cain. It's going to come up and tell me there's 23 results. But I am going to have to look through this listing here and go, okay, I see Cain, 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 Cain a lot. Oh, yeah, Cain, I see. Oh, wait a minute. Tubal Cain, Canaan, Canaan. So what I want to do first off is put a space in front here. Get rid of the Tubal Cains. 21. Canaans. 5 times. So Cain itself is 16. I don't know if AI is going to do that for us. There's too many things in here. And on top of that, you would look at this and go, wait a minute. Tubal Cain, what's that? What's just Tubal? Tubal Cain, Tubal. There's actually a Tubal that's not a Tubal Cain. We got Tubal Cain, Tubal. What else do we have? We have Ham. Oh, that's too many times. I got to put a space in front to get rid of the Abrahams. It says 23. Let's go through here. Ham. Ham sounds like a good thing with a 23 there. But if I start going through here and looking, I realize, oh, there's Hamathite. One of those. Hamor. 11. Oh, that's a bad place right there. Ham itself, well, you start looking, I think it gets down to 10. Ham is going to be the father of Canaan. And guess what? Abraham and Ham combined later. Abram is 59. Abraham, 134. So there's a point where you're looking at combining things. You're looking at things that are going on in the background. As you start looking at that, you go, oh, Cain has said this many times, but then Tubal is in there. That's that weird thing. But Tubal is said so many times, and you realize, man, they're blending things together here in a way that I don't think AI is ever going to catch that. It would take something much different. I don't know how you would search for this. I don't know how you would look for, you could say things like, search for, like how many times in the book of Genesis, show me every word in the book of Genesis that is only said 1 time. Then show me every word in the book of Genesis that's only said 2 times and then 3 times. But it has to have a lot of conditions in there. Is there a space in front of it? Is there a period behind it? Is there a comma, a semicolon, full colon, something like that? All of those parameters have to go in, and I'm looking at that going, oh my God, it's easier just to do what I'm doing here. But also, as I'm looking through that, I can catch those anomalous things where it's like they're combining names. I don't think AI is going to catch that. I think we're really stuck doing this mentally, if that makes sense. So I wanted to say that to you. My coding background is minimal. It was enough to help me. It showed me that there was if-then statements, that the first creation story is made on if-then statements. Sort of. It's not if this, then that, but it's God said, so there was. God said, so there was. It's the same process going on. We're going to set this up, and then it's going to happen. That's like saying, I'm going to flip the light switch and the light's coming on. I'm going to turn on the water faucet and the water's going to start pouring. It's an if-then. I recognize that, but this is all minimal. I'm like limited to like basic, P-basic, parallax basic, a little bit of light machine code, positioning servos and driving motors and infrared proximity detection, different things like that, but nothing with this kind of searching mental. That stuff is simple compared to this. It's like, whew, yeah, you need a flexible brain that can go all over the place. It's not fixed. There's something. Well, it is fixed, but we have to float into it to find what's fixed. I guarantee somewhere underneath the Vatican is all the information needed to decode this. They're not going to say anything, but I damn well know that they know it. It's just too obvious at some point. And then when you see what, the chapters and the verses put in the way that they were by Langton, and you start lining that stuff up, and it takes a lot of work. It really is hard, and it's very foreign. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. I appreciated your comments on that, but I wanted to say something. There's something really sloppy in Genesis anyway, where things are blending. And yeah, that's that. Okay, I think I'm going to stay on the same video and respond to another question to Jay. Jay, you asked me about. Let me look it up here. All right, the comment was a little longer, but this is the question. I need more clarity on death from the conscious point of view when you have time. No rush. Okay, yeah, that's a tricky one. The way that they, all the stuff that they're using as far as verbiage is analogous, and that's a tricky thing to learn. What it means is that everything you say, you're using words that are like, they're not the right words, but they can mean the same thing. You got bats in your belfry. Your elevator doesn't quite make it to the highest floor. Maybe you could say something like, you got an empty attic, which would be a good thing. Oh, it sounds bad. My attic's empty upstairs, all that. But really, you're just supposed to, blessed are the poor in spirit. Seek emptiness from the Buddha. So there's ways of playing with words that have a meaning. Because sometimes words have two meanings. Yeah. Led Zeppelin. All right. The words always have two meanings. Death does not mean physical death. It's a different sort of a thing. All of the words are that way. Everything in the Bible is that way. That's why it is so tricky. Everything has to be, even if it's a city that's being destroyed, even if you found the remains of Jericho and said, yeah, there the story happened. No, the story was written on the template. Jericho represents the inner self that needed to be destroyed, and they just used that because it was already in their environment and created the story on it. So those things, once you understand what they're doing, you begin to realize those patterns are there. It destroyed the earth, destroyed Sodom, destroyed Gomorrah, destroyed Jericho. All of those are destructions of a city or something like that represent the inner self. They're a repeating pattern. As far as motifs, the same. You know what? That healing process, that whole flooding the earth 40 days, 40 nights is going to be the exact same motif as 3 days in the belly of the whale and then being spit out after that time frame. That represents going in, coming back out. I went in with a bad attitude. I came out with a good one. Jesus is going into, there's a crucifixion, then the tomb, then a resurrection again. All of these are a motif, the same motif about turning inward. I got a problem. I'm going to spend the time it takes to resolve it. Then I'm going to reemerge, reborn. That will have died to me. And notice when you go into them all, they're all crossing a river to get there. They're going through a threshold. They're doing all of that stuff. And of course, they're not always rivers, but you've got a water component there. The whale, you're entering into the mouth of the whale in the water. Jesus is going to be going through a baptism, and then he spends first 40 days in the wilderness, the purging, and then denying of anything afterward. All of these are us. They're all made on the same template of turning inward, spending the time it takes. Things are better. I reemerge a new person, and that piece of my past has died to me. So the way to read these, it gets so tricky, knowing that every word they're using means something different, and it has to be mentally interactive. It takes a lot of thought process and thought experiment, but it's almost like learning a language. Once you see that, it's okay. Hey, good morning. What grows in your garden today? Well, I got some thistles to pull this morning, but later on should be flowers. Okay, what does that mean right there? That's how they're talking. That's how they're working the verbiage here. However, it's getting very thick. Death. What is death? Genesis, through analysis, is going to teach us what we have to understand here. All right, first of all, I've got a story down here. This is Genesis King James Version, and I get down into, this is a analog farm. This is chapter 11. We've got a very short piece up front. Verse 1 through 9 is the Tower of Babel. Very short piece. Then we step in. They plugged in an analog farm right here. And when we get down to the bottom of it, we find that Terah is an individual that came about. And what do we have here? Nahor lived after he begat Terah. So Terah is a product of Nahor. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Those are the sons. Okay, you see that? So I put Terah is the dad, and he had sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Story seam here. Additions were possibly made. Why? Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. They just said that right there. And Haran begat Lot. I got suspect addition. Use a name, repeat the ad count. Yeah, okay, this is my analyzing stuff. The stories are stitched together in here, but you have to analyze them to this level to see it. All right. And 28. And Haran, the son, died before his father. Okay, so Haran up here, one of the sons died before his father in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. Ur of the Chaldees is repeated 3 times. That's a peaceful place. Terah. Terah is 9 times. Terah is a transitional step. Terah is not a person. Terah is a step. Terah being 9 means it's step 9. We're Terah. We're going through a transition. And Abram and Nahor took them wives, so they're building things up. Abram's wife, Sarai. So Sarai is going to emerge. We got to have Sarai is going to marry Abram. And Sarai was barren. She had no child. That's what happens when you are a pure inner being at the beginning of life. Your inner self is barren. You have no child. There's nothing in there. We haven't experienced and judged life yet. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's daughters, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth, and with them to the Ur of the Chaldees. This being 31, we're creating a division here. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah, the dad, died in Haran, the son. All right, the dad just died in sight of his son. How the hell does that work? Yeah, okay, that's because they're iterations of us. My early self believed and felt this way, but later on, I become something different. So my early self that was this way, that's gone. That childhood self that was this way died. And it gave offspring to me, to my later self, but that earlier self died inside of me. That's death. I do want to say right here, I have had Christians before hear me say this right here with that Haran son dying inside of and the iterations of us who have said, no, that's not even, they're interpreting it outward, thinking it's real. They're saying that that's no different than saying like having a son named Austin and a city named Austin. So what if he died inside of Austin? He didn't die inside of his son. That's ridiculous. He died inside of the city. When the story doesn't say that. They're violating something that appears probably 15 maybe 20 times in the Bible scattered about. Do not add to or take anything away from the stories. The stories are encoded and they contain everything. If you can't explain it and you're going, okay, I'm going to start adding pieces into it, you're not understanding it. Everything that's needed to interact with it is in there. It's just so foreign to us, we don't like to hear it. But that earlier self died inside of me. That's death. What is that? That's forgiveness. Every time something in you dies, that means you've forgiven something. That means you've resolved something. When we're born eternal. It's said, eternal's an analog. We're born pure. We're born pure energy. I think that would be better stated is that we are born from the cosmos and that we are pure awareness, physical beings that are pure awareness to begin with, mentally, but that we have to have physical experiences in order to become self-aware. And whatever those experiences are going to be based on where we come from. We have no choice in that. But we don't have any mental experience. We can't judge anything. We have to grow through life and develop memories and judgments in order to be able to process and to think. Just look back on your life. When we're infants, we don't do much. And when we're little kids, we're very simple. We can't accomplish much. The more we learn, the more we gain experience, the more aware, all of that. You can just kind of see that, how that works. So as we take on all of those things, that is putting the mote in the eye, that is creating the ought against your brother, that is judging that we're going to be judged back from. These are all, this, like I said, this is simple. It's going to be repeating things using all kinds of different analogs telling us the same thing. I just, did this in the other video. Naming is the origin of all things, of all particular things, or the 10,000 things. That's that bundle of memories we're going to have. When God calls people and puts them, this is a start over someplace with an empty, fresh mind, and you're being told, this is for you and all of your offspring, as many as sand on the beach or stars in the sky. All of those are representing the idea that we're going to fill up this mind space with massive amounts of judgments. Spiritual death is forgiveness of an issue. My earlier self and my earlier beliefs have died. That means healing. That means I've looked back on the issues and I said, you know what? I found a way to resolve this. That's what that is. That is a spiritual death. 6,000-year-old material. But we got to be careful in using it and understanding that everything is analogous and that it means about this life. It's not telling us that there's an afterlife. It's telling us that we're going to return to our source. The verbiage that indicates life, death, rebirth is all about starting out life, then living experiences, spiritually dying to that higher awareness, learning that, resolving this, re-emerging, now living through the higher awareness, what you really are, as opposed to the bundle of memories that you had to learn through. That's the rebirth. And that right here, right now, we're experiencing life, and it's our opportunity to figure this out, and that most people will not, that few are going to do it. But you're on the path, you're looking for it, you're seeing this stuff. Anyway, that's how the material interprets, and I hope that helps right there. That also kind of ties together the other stuff as far as looking at, repeated names and things like that. Stuff is really meant to be, it's got code in it, but it's written to be understood mentally. I don't think you can understand this machine-wise because it's just too flexible. It's this, your mind has to go there with comprehension and not just a scaffolding to look at. You have to be able to, that scaffolding becomes, very organic at some point. It's weird. So we're Abram and we're Sarai in the beginning of the story. Then corruption happens. Then when it's time to turn inward, we become Abraham and Sarah, the inner self. Time for purity, time to destroy Sodom. But then as you get on, we're going to continue to have iterations of us. We are Abram. As time goes by, we become something different. We're going to become Isaac. Time goes on. We're going to get older and older. We become Jacob. Each time, we're going to be going through this process of going back and, what else you got? What else you got? What else you got? Okay, what else you got? Yeah, something else hurts, doesn't it? You dig deep enough, you're living through these things still. If they're affecting you, you have to resolve them. If they're not affecting you, you're fine. This would be directly analogous to the way reincarnation works in Hinduism. The idea there, in a nutshell, is that you have bad karma. If you die, you're going to be reborn. You're going to have to try and live the next life trying to resolve that. If you don't resolve it, you're going to die. And then when you come back and you're reborn, you have an opportunity to resolve that. It's going to continue to happen until you've resolved everything, and then you cease to come back anymore. You no longer have to come back and experience the physical world. Think about that. These are healing processes. You come back and experience the physical world each time. I'm having this anguish. I'm having this turmoil. I've got these things to resolve, but I keep working at them. I keep turning inward and doing it. That's reincarnation. And when you finally get it resolved, you don't have to come back to the physical world anymore. We're detached. We're living from the higher awareness, and we're no longer living through those memories. That's what you want to wash off, the unresolved memories. When you get into this material, they won't use that term. But what they're doing, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, that's you. You keep going on healing paths until you go, okay, I got this. I got this. The difficult thing is seeing and understanding that there's a numbering pattern that sequence is following, that we are actually, that each one of those male-female iterations represents each human being, one human being, your conscious and your inner self, what you're storing, the bundle of memories that we're literally living and experiencing life through. And if it's not resolved and they're hurtful, we're going to live life consciously, physically, hurtful that way because of something that is up here that we have mental access to that we can manipulate. And if we do, it affects a healing. And that is called a spiritual death of all things. It makes it difficult to wrap your head around. You got to step back from it and say, this is mental. However, it's verbiaged in such a way to have a major impact on fearful human beings. Step back from it. I'm not a sinner, but I have sinned and fall short of the glory of God once I realize I've judged life and I'm no longer connected with the higher awareness. The verbiage is just so thick, it's hard to accept it. If, however, you were to read through those stories and pay attention, there's an awful lot of God disappearing and then reappearing and not being there at the time or sending punishment after the fact. It's like God is not very well engaged until it's time for a calling. Then God becomes engaged again. That is the higher awareness. It throughout our life, it emerges, tells us what to do. It talks to us at night. It continues to appear and disappear, but we don't know it. When we finally turn inward, God reconnects. God appears from the heavens. God somehow, something calls the next person. That's the reappearance of the higher awareness. And it's really not the reappearance. It's the understanding of the consciousness that that's what's happening. Oh, I'm the one that's supposed to engage with the higher awareness. It's not coming and taking care of. It's not taking charge. I have to allow it. I'll stop there so this doesn't get too long, but that's how the stories are going to work. And all those other people and facets are parts of us. Here's your division. Here's your lot. You could go good. You can go bad. They do. Which side of the valley do you want to live on? We can't live together anymore. So where the division is happening. That right there is the same place where Cain and Abel went. The division was happening. The repeating is going on in a very thick way. But that's it. Dying to oneself means forgiving something in the past. I believe something and God, I hate this. Later on, you resolve it and go, God, I'm so glad I got that taken care of. You died to yourself. That's a good thing. All right. Hope that was helpful. Ask any more questions. See you in the next video.